Hello, and welcome back to the Product-Led Festival. A big thank you to our partners and speakers for helping us feature amazing content over the 3 days, looking at the core building blocks of product-led growth, from discovery and experimentation to metrics and measurement and everything in between. A quick reminder to join our Slack channel to interact with other attendees and join selected speakers for Q&A. You can find the link in the menu at the top of this page. Enjoy the festival.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Scale Responsibly, Strategies for New Product Growth. So my name is John Fontenot. I'm currently a product manager for a company called Swipe Clock in South Jordan, Utah. And before that, I was doing UX research and UX design, which we run pretty lean as a team. So I still do aspects of those things in my day-to-day as well. Before Swipe Clock, I was a contractor for Intel's Developer Relations Division, where we worked with independent software vendors, ISVs, on new product development initiatives around new things that Intel was releasing, whether it was software related or hardware related. And that's where I first got introduced to storyboarding, design thinking, working on API integrations, security integrations, things like that. And then on both sides of hardware and software, whether it was integration or optimization. And then we'd work with the marketing teams within the software and services group to help our ISV partners go to market. And I'm also the host of the Broadcast podcast, so you can check that out anywhere you listen to your podcast. All right, so achieving scale responsibly. There's really three scenarios we could go down. We can go down two routes with startups, right? New products in blue ocean market, so trying to solve an underserved market or solve a problem that people don't know exists yet or that isn't being solved well. And in that route, we'd have to talk about product market fit, but there's plenty of material out there on how to find product market fit and a lot of different theories and ideas of how to do that. Another startup track we could go down is introducing new products into existing markets. And there's a lot of talk around, what is your 10x advantage? What is your niche? Are you niching down? Are you, going back to the Jeffrey Moore, are you creating that beachhead market to where you can start expanding and then eventually cross the chasm? We could go down that route, but there's been tons of books and stuff written on that. The thing that I think is probably less talked about, and I'm going to explain why, is product expansion in mature organizations and achieving scale responsibly in that regard. So we're going to go through the why, the what, and the how of achieving scale responsibly when trying to expand your product line or even a feature set inside of a product in a mature organization, and some of the pitfalls that can happen along the way. So that's what we're going to talk about, and that's what we're going to focus on. But even though it's product expansion, I'm going to try to tie it back to expanding feature sets within products too. So that way, not everyone's launching new products, but most of us are launching new features. So I'm going to try to tie both of those things in. So why expand? There's some possible reasons. There's some good reasons and there's some bad ones. You could be losing business to competitors, and expanding might help retain either current customers or go after new markets. Right? You might want to solve an implicit or an explicit need within your existing user base, and expanding your product line or adding new features might solve that problem. You might be having to heavily rely on third-party integrations to meet user needs, and you might see that adding that product to your in-house product line versus relying on integrations would create a more stable business for you, and not have to rely on these software suppliers of these integrations. The new product would complement or complete an existing product or suite of products. So you could be, there could be a larger category of products and you're only in like a segment of that larger umbrella, and you might want to expand out to capture more of what's available under that umbrella. So like in our scenario with Swipe Clock, we started out as a employee timekeeping software company, and then we bought a scheduling product, so you can now incorporate timekeeping with scheduling. And then we've acquired some HR products, and we're kind of building out horizontally that product line. So that's, a lot of this talk comes from just experiences I've had with this company, and then things that I've seen working with other companies as well that have tried to expand their products. So our organization has developed a unique set of core competencies that make expansion possible and potentially viable. And I think this one's key, right? Um, are there untapped competencies that your company has, developed over time that you're not currently taking advantage of, but could be to create business opportunity? And then are there unaddressed needs in adjacent markets, right? Are there places where you could expand that make sense, where competitors who might be playing in a space that you're currently not fully playing in might be doing a poor job at solving the user needs or the jobs that the customer's hiring their product to do. So any of these reasons would be possibly good reasons to expand, but there's some bad ones, right? Our competitor just launched this new product. Okay, great. You have no reason why, if that was even a smart decision, or the legwork that went into that, or why they may be uniquely positioned to do so, but you're not. The second one on the surface may sound like a good reason. There's a huge market opportunity, but there's huge market opportunities all the time. But, a construction company might not launch a HR software platform just because there's a huge market opportunity in HR software, because it doesn't make sense for the construction company. They probably don't have these core competencies, and they probably wouldn't complement each other very well. They might, but it would be a stretch, right? So just because there's a huge market opportunity doesn't necessarily mean it's a good reason. If you do it just because there's a market opportunity, it's probably a bad reason, unless there's a lot of other things that you've answered first. So there's a few why questions. This isn't exhaustive, but there's just a few I want to throw out there that you should ask yourself before expanding. And I kind of touched on the first one. Why are we best positioned to expand? Okay. What is it about your company, core competencies that you've developed over time, the technical talent you may have, the sales talent? There needs to be some reason why you're positioned to expand. Coming from a feature set standpoint, right? Are there unique insights that you have that your competitor doesn't, that allows you to create this new feature that either doesn't exist, or that does exist or doesn't solve the problem as well as it could? That you should build it and expand upon your feature set or your product line because of this unique insight that you have, or because of these competencies that you've developed that give you a competitive advantage over your competitors, right? The other question is, why haven't our competitors done this already? It may be because you have that unique insight, or it may be because it's not a great idea. but at least asking this question gives you the ability to play devil's advocate in this process instead of just seeing green pastures and all upside. Asking this question gives you the ability to start poking holes potentially where you might not have been able to otherwise if you're just focused on kind of the upside and the positives. And along that same line is, why shouldn't we expand, right? What are some negative aspects to this? Is it going to take away from our current strategy? Is it going to take too much time? Are we going to neglect our current customer base? There could be a plethora of reasons why you shouldn't expand, or shouldn't expand now, or you shouldn't expand your feature set now, right? So from like a feature set perspective, are there user experience issues that are scattered all throughout your current product? Are there issues that are glaring, or is there tech debt that needs to be resolved that would only get worse if you expanded? Like, so those are some real considerations before looking to expand, and that goes for expanding product lines too, right? If your existing products are not in a state to where you can take on an additional product in your line and try to make, integrate those together to where they complement each other, if there's existing tech debt that's going to make that architecturally very hard, probably not a good idea until you get your house in order first. Even if there is that big opportunity out there, and you do have those unique insights, and you do have those competencies that you developed over time, and even if those boxes are checked, but your existing products aren't in a place architecturally to allow you to seamlessly add new products you should probably get your house in order first. So those are just some reasons why you shouldn't expand, and some things to think about in that decision-making process, even at a feature level. So some expansion goals, again, not exhaustive, but just some ones to throw out there. From a feature perspective or a full-on product perspective, retention or increased lifetime value, right? If so, in my example, right, I'm the product manager over our scheduling product at Swipe Clock, and we know based on data that when you couple timekeeping with scheduling, the lifetime value of your current customers increases exponentially, right? So are there opportunities in your product line where if you added a complementary product to your existing products that could increase lifetime value or retention? And this may be driven by the fact that competitors are currently doing this and you're missing out on this opportunity, or it could be based on a unique insight, but that's a good reason and a good goal. The other thing is upsell, right? This could be at a feature level too, right? Are there niche things or unique things or differentiated things that customers would pay for? And while you might not be looking for net new business growth, there may be upsell opportunities within your existing customer base that you could leverage, whether it's with added features or an added product. And we've kind of done this too on both levels, feature level and a product level, at Swipe Clock. And then increase net new business. It's kind of the other side of the upsell, right? Like, do you feel like you have enough share of wallet from your existing customer base and you're just looking to expand into different market segments, or position your product line in a way that you would be more attractive to a larger net or a larger audience? And then the other one is moving up market or down market, right? Like, are you currently focused on SMBs and you want to move into enterprise? Well, you may need a larger feature set or a more robust capabilities to satisfy enterprise customers. Likewise, enterprise customers might be really used to white glove service and being handheld through processes, where in the SMB market, hand holding smaller clients through processes may create a lot of overhead internally. And so automating some of those things where you have kind of automated onboarding, and it's kind of a hands-off experience, and support is a little more hands-off. So some of those things are just things to think about in expansion. So if you're trying to go up market or down market, there's different considerations and potentially different products that you need to create, or different features that you would need to accommodate to penetrate those markets. All right. So now this is where we get into the strategy aspect. Everything we've talked about to this point has been the homework that you need to do to really be able to wrap your head around, do I expand or do I not expand? And then once you've done that homework and you get the green light and you're ready to expand, whether it's your feature set or your product line, now what? So this comes from Richard Rumelt's book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. So you have the green light, and next there's 3 things that you need to do before executing on the strategy of expansion, whether that's your feature set or a full-on product added to your product line. So you need to identify the most immediate challenge to expansion, create a guiding policy for that challenge, and then create a coherent set of actions to carry out that guiding policy as you work on the expansion effort. So before we jump into those 3 things, here's what you never do. And this is one of the biggest traps I think mature organizations can get into, because you have revenue, you have profits, you have some type of investable asset to be able to take on an expansion effort anyway. Otherwise, if you're not in a financial position to do it, you probably shouldn't be expanding to begin with. But if you are expanding, chances are you're in the financial position to do so. And so one thing I've seen companies do, and our own company's done this in the last year with the expansion effort that we've kind of deprioritized, because we did it wrong, right? Is we threw a bunch of marketing dollars at a minimum viable product to acquire new customers. We weren't very smart about it, if I'm being honest. you won't get the results that you want, and you'll end up abandoning the expansion effort. And so in our case, we are like, our business model for 20 years has been to sell through a reseller channel, right? And we saw this big market opportunity. So if we think back to earlier, one reason to expand or not to expand is just because there's a big market opportunity, right? And so we saw a big market opportunity where the majority of users of our type of product were looking at direct products that were self-service in nature, where you can go, you could sign up for a free trial, you can onboard yourself, and then you can subscribe, right? That's the way that about 80% of the market uses a product like ours, or a product line like ours. And so we built an MVP based on things that we thought, based on our existing business, would make a decent minimum lovable or minimum viable, minimum desirable product. And then we threw a bunch of marketing dollars to try to acquire new customers. And, we got leads, we got people coming in and trying it, we got feedback, and we didn't get a whole lot of adoption. And bottom line, we didn't get the results that we wanted, and we abandoned the effort, or at least additional investment into the effort. And so fortunately, we've been able to salvage that project for useful things as we've kind of pivoted our expansion focus. But yeah, don't throw marketing dollars at something until you know what you're throwing it at and why. And so that's what we get into here. So identify the most immediate challenge. So where do we start? Okay, so you probably have a good idea, whether it's a feature set or a new product, about what you want, where you want to expand. Like, what is that high level thing that you want to do, right? If in our case, we wanted to expand from timekeeping to scheduling, and then from timekeeping and scheduling to HR products, right? And so that's kind of the high level, like, product line. But where do we start? What's that first feature set or first feature of the product that we build, and why? And the way we identify that is customer interviews, right? We need to do ethnographic research or field studies. We need to understand how people are either working around current problems today, or how they're currently solving the problem that we're trying to build for to solve better. Okay, second, from those customer interviews and those field studies, you want to create your problem statements, develop personas, and identify the jobs that they're hiring products for, or that they're still doing manual processes to accomplish this task. So lastly, you want to prioritize, and you could use something like the RICE framework. There's other prioritization frameworks out there, but RICE basically looks at what is your reach, who do we touch through this expansion effort? What is our total addressable market, right? What is the impact? Right? And that impact could be defined a couple different ways, but what is the impact of what we're prioritizing? And then confidence. So what is your confidence level that this feature or this product is going to move the needle, or this subset of features within this product that we're trying to expand into? And then effort. So this goes into like other frameworks, right? Like, what's the feasibility, right? What is the engineering effort behind it? What resources are we going to have to bring in from like sales and marketing? And that kind of goes back to competencies, right? Do we have the resources in other parts of our organization to support this? But mostly you're looking at like development effort, and do we have the technical competencies to develop this feature set of this product that we're expanding into in a reasonable enough time to where it makes sense. And so that's kind of an internal effort. And then you could solicit feedback from potential users or potential customers around what is their priority list. So one exercise, called a shopping list exercise, which I think is pretty cool, where you basically give someone you're interviewing like a finite amount of money, say $100, and you have like the features that you're thinking about prioritizing, and you ask them, if you went to the store and you had this little bit of money, what would you spend it on? And they basically prioritize based on fictional money that they have, and that gives you some insight into what's more important to them, and then you can dig into why and that kind of stuff. But that's where we start, right? We have to identify the most immediate challenge, And the most immediate challenge is where do we start, right? We know what product we want to expand into, but what are we prioritizing about that product? Because we can't build the whole thing and we can't satisfy everyone. That holds true no matter how long you've worked on a product, but especially on the onset. We're not going to satisfy everybody. So how do we, bringing us to the next point, which is how do we find the easiest customer subset to satisfy? And so really that should be the guiding policy and the key to focus for the effort, right? Like you could try to satisfy any market, and just because one vertical or one persona may be a bigger market, the effort to satisfy that persona or that market might be very large. So the strategy here, the decision that I would advise to make is to find the easiest customer subset to satisfy and use that based on all the information that you've gathered up front, and let that define your product scope and the technical scope, any marketing constraints, and then resourcing constraints. And so the reason I put in resourcing and marketing is because the heavier the challenge that you're trying to take on, or the more complex of problems that you're trying to solve, you're going to create internal complexities too. And you're going to either more heavily tax existing resources, or it'll require onboarding new resources that don't exist, which adds to the cost of the overall project. And from a marketing standpoint, like you have to be pretty crisp about your positioning and your messaging. And that should come from defining the jobs and the personas up front, and then who you're going to go after in this effort, right? So you defined your personas, you defined the problem statements, and from that you've prioritized around who is the easiest customer subset to satisfy, and you've let that become your guiding policy in all of these other categories. And from there, you have a list of coherent actions, right? So now that you've prioritized the problems that you're going to solve, it's how do you solve them? And so this basically is just a typical product management process, right? You're going to develop user stories based on all those interviews and personas that you've developed. You're going to start creating mock-ups to go along with those user stories. And usability tests are obviously important because you want to make sure that what you're building is usable. But I think those mock-ups from those initial user stories would be a great opportunity to go back to the people that you've interviewed to make sure that you're on the right track of what you thought their problem was and what you've kind of deciphered to be a reasonable solution to their problems. And then kind of having just a temperature check of how close are you to really solving that problem and solving it well. And then once you've understood that and you know that you are on track, then you go into usability tests, because even if you understand their problem, if the product isn't usable, it's not going to get adopted. And then from there, run a beta program or some type of limited release or targeted release with a subset of your existing user base. From there, track usage analytics, any other type of analytics that you could track, or do surveys. Try to find some way to solicit feedback from actual users actually using the product after it's built, and conduct customer interviews. So you're looking at some quant metrics on the usage analytics side, and then you're getting some qualitative information from customer interviews. And then from there, you'll do design and product iterations, and then a targeted marketing launch. So after this limited subset of your customers helps define what an optimized experience looks like for this easiest to satisfy subset of users, then you can actually go to market, or should go to market, and put some marketing dollars behind this, because you can have a pretty reasonable level of confidence that you're going to satisfy this subset of customers, or these personas that you defined with this certain set of problems. And then it's basically rinse and repeat, right? Identify the next easiest customer subset to satisfy, and then rinse and repeat what we've talked about. So that's the strategy I want to share on how to achieve scale responsibly in expanding in products or expanding your feature sets. I hope you at least took one thing away from this, and I would love to get your feedback. So if there's any feedback that you have on this session, or if there's something that you took away from this, I'd love to hear about it. My email is right here, rfontenot@swipeclock.com. I go by, my email is Rob. I go by John, first name, middle name thing. So sorry for the confusion there, but rfontenot@swipeclock.com. Feel free to write that down. Shoot me an email with any feedback you have, any differing perspectives or things that you disagree with. I'd love to hear that too. I run a podcast, so I love connecting with people and hearing different people's perspectives on things. If you want to check out the podcast, it's on Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen, it's there. Search podcast and John Fontenot, and it'll come up every time. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast, I'd love to have you. So again, feel free to reach out to me. And even if you just want to chat product, hit me up and we'll do it. So thanks for listening today, and look forward to connecting with you if you reach out.